Hi, my name is Cindy Feller. This is for EDL 851, Supervision and Evaluation of School Personnel. This is a case study where the teacher reacts negatively to a personal evaluation. First, with the case summary, Mrs. Stevens is having difficulty in the room. The principal's in there several times, and she's having trouble motivating her kids and keeping them under control. They're disinterested and uninvolved. The principal does know that she is very intelligent and has excellent background in her subject material. And then in a post-visitation after the conference, she's irritable, hostile. He cannot communicate with her, and he tries to subtly suggest that she try to motivate her students more. Also, she claims that she did try to motivate him, and it's just because he's sitting in the back of the room is why they stopped participating. And then when he says, well, you need to involve them more, she says there's no proof that the achievement is related to the involvement. And so the principal, after releasing her, he goes and he thinks, all right, I need to visit her again. And there's still no improvement in her teaching. She's just lecturing and the students are reciting. He decides to recommend non-renewal to avoid her gaining tenure. After the second time he went in, the second post-conference, he met with her, and when he told her that they were not renewing her, she claimed the evaluation was inaccurate and unfair. She said no one had ever offered her any practical ideas to improve her teaching, and claims the supervision is lacking, and she plans to take the school to court, the issue. So in Section 2, legal or ethical issues, who is being affected is Mrs. Stevens because she will not be renewed. The administrator responsible in the legal issues, administrator is responsible for the development implementation of supervision support. And he's also responsible to orientate the teachers so they know what the evaluation process is going to be. And he is responsible for using an evaluation system that works and shows a likeness to what the teacher is doing, so it is fair. So maybe using different methods, walkthroughs, observations, value-added model, or the framework model by Charlotte Danielson, or the Masano focused teaching model. Any of those would be good evaluation methods. Also, the principal is responsible for providing actionable feedback and staff development to promote school improvement and student success. And along the way, the principal also needs to document what he or she is doing to help the teacher so that if it ever comes to a legal lawsuit, then they can have a basis to stand on. Section 3, synthesize what has happened. There's an irritable teacher that is not responsive to suggestions of how to improve her teaching, to motivate or involve students, and is unwilling to admit that she's having difficulty, claims evaluation and not being renewed is unfair, and the school supervision has failed her, and she will be taking the issue to court. The facts. The people involved are Mrs. Stevens. It does appear she's intelligent and knows her content, but the problem is she's not interacting with the kids. She's not motivating them. She can't control them. They're not really learning anything as far as the principal can see. The principal realizes Mrs. Stevens is having trouble. He evaluates her 2 times just in observations and then has 2 post-conferences. He should just motivating, involving students more. But he's met with irritation, hostility, and defensiveness, so he gives up and decides not to renew her. The students are also affected because they are unmotivated, they're disrespectful, and they're not involved in the learning process. This is taking place. We're not really sure what state or area this is located. We know the principal is just visiting her classroom, and then they have the conferences in the principal's office. But other than that, it doesn't really say anything about where the the school is demographically, or what size or what state it's in. The program, as far as I can tell, it is a one content subject classroom because it says she's very strong in her content area. Also a general education classroom. Most likely not an elementary because it talks about her lecturing and the kids are just reciting things. So that would probably be an older classroom. So we need to review and prioritize information. Well, first, Mrs. Stevens is unable to involve and motivate students, which could be detrimental to students. Second, if Mrs. Stevens takes issues to court, the school's reputation could be under question and finances in the school could be hurt. Third, the principal could be held accountable for poor supervision and evaluation performance. We don't know what was done prior to this year's evaluation or earlier in the year. Did the principal use any other evaluation methods besides this observation? And what did the data indicate if they did use other evaluation processes? Finally, what kind of supervision and professional development was implemented? Was she given supervision and support and suggestions on exactly how to improve it? And is it possible that she can be put on probation and not tenured? So if the problem persists, that something can be done. We need to identify options and possible consequences. Number one, is it possible to postpone the decision to renew or non-renew Mrs. Stevens? Would more professional development help her? Could I, as a principal, build a relationship with her to help communication, the hostility disappear? Could a peer collaborate with Mrs. Stevens? Could they work together? Or would a different evaluation model be more effective than just observation? Two, another option could be not renewing Mrs. Stevens. If that happens, she may take the issue to court, and then there could be a lawsuit on the school's hands. Or three, renew Mrs. Stevens. Consequences of that is her teaching might not improve, or it could be professional development and communication could improve Mrs. Stevens' student learning. When I'm evaluating the options, renewing the contract, well, a pro would be you wouldn't have a lawsuit on your hands. You wouldn't have to find another teacher. And right now in our school district, it is difficult to have teachers to come out to Western Kansas. So depending on where you're at and what the subject area is, whether you can find a teacher, her content knowledge is, and you could find one that's worse. Her content knowledge is good, so that's a pro. And opportunity to provide actionable feedback. If you retain her, then maybe you could help her improve and become a better teacher. Con of renewing her contract is she could get tenured depending on what the policy is and if it's possible to put her on probation and still rehire her and try another year with more contact. It could be difficult she might be difficult to get along with. That would be a con. May not improve, and if so, students will suffer. Not renewing her contract, a positive of that would be well, student success and well-being is the priority of schools. So if you could get another teacher in there better than her, then students would have more success. You would be rid of a disagreeable teacher, and you could possibly hire a more effective teacher. The cons of not renewing would be possible lawsuit. Is the principal at fault here? Did he not provide enough supervision and support to promote school improvement? Section 8, choose the best option. The one I would like to see, and it depends kind of on what state and where you're at, whether you can do this, if you can renew the contract without tenure, because it is her third year, and it did say she would be tenured. So if it is possible to have a stipulation or a rider, I don't know if that's possible. It depends on the state, the school district, maybe her, if she's willing to do that so she can keep her job, that might be something to work with. And if we go with that, she can get a contract and not be tenured and then to look at it a year later. That would be, I figured, the best option. You could discuss a possibility with the superintendent board, allow the year, meet with her, really outline your expectations of her, share supervision support plan that you plan to help her, and explain the evaluation process better. Maybe change the evaluation process besides just observation, so you can do walkthroughs and do step-by-step improving her ability to improve the way she's teaching so that she can reach and motivate kids. Also provide actionable feedback with the walkthroughs. Actually use some of the students' work, maybe test scores, to see if they're learning it, even though it appears on the surface through observations that they are not. And evaluate throughout the year. It sounds like he just went and waited till the last minute before he did the evaluation. Section 9, imagine implementing the decision. I would renew the contract without tenure, build a relationship and communication with Mrs. Stevens, warn Mrs. Stevens of consequences of non-compliance, not working, being hostile, not willing to try to improve. Also implement system of supervision and support with actionable feedback to promote school improvement and student success. I would use a variety of evaluation systems, the walkthroughs, VAM, student survey, student artifacts, peer evaluation, framework model. I really like the framework model as we were discussing it in class this year. Apply knowledge, skills, and commitment to build professional capacity and help staff develop collaborative professional culture. I really felt like this was something several of our modules emphasized, was building the professional capacity and the culture and working together. And that was part of my theory, my leadership theory, was working together, cooperative collaboration. So that is something we could use. Peer evaluations and mentoring, maybe make a connection with another teacher, and so it wouldn't just be the principal doing it. And also, after a year, if things haven't changed, non-renew Mrs. Stevens. Effective teacher characteristics, I could maybe share these with her. What you do today can improve all your tomorrows. Explain that we have high expectations for the kids and she needs to have those, and I don't think that was an issue with her. Contribute to positive attitudes, academics, and social aspect. Maybe plan engaging learning opportunities and adapt as needed. And I think that's something that give her special critique or suggestions on how she could do that. Develop civic and diverse classrooms instead of just the lecturing, and collaborate with peers, leaders, and parents. I think more communication and maybe working with others would help her also. I went ahead and put in the standard standard 2, 7.4, building professional capacity. At the all of this, I really feel like as a school leader, I must evaluate, develop, and implement systems of supervision, support, and evaluation to promote school improvement and success, student success. And if we work as a team, then I believe our school will have success. And I really felt like this whole thing came down to maybe not enough, like she claimed, not enough supervision and support. At the same time, I do worry that by hiring you back, you could still face it. So I would definitely try to do that without the tenure in there if it is at all possible. Thank you very much.